What's up, folks? Casual Dad here, and tonight we're just going to play around a little bit. We have a max level 400 deck point PvP campaign going right now, so it's a perfect time to bust out all of the Supreme Commanders and just kind of take them for a whirl as their maximum ultimate level. So I'm looking at this in order, and just kind of a couple quick notes before I get started here. I really do expect these Supreme Commanders to be fun and interesting, but hopefully balanced. Something I've talked about before is that they should feel like a warlord that gives you consistent, cool thematic ability, but that they, in terms of power level, are on par with one of the other warlords, just with a slightly, more cards, right? Or with fewer cards, excuse me. So you would expect the comparison between the Avatar and Shadowsun to be they're roughly on par, but where the Avatar gets another 9-point card, for example. And as you get up in points, so like the Silent King should feel considerably more powerful because he costs so much more. And that does make them quite weak in ladder, because you only have so many more points to play with, but they can still work really well. But so I'm working on the ladder stuff, but while we have the max level campaign, I wanted to jump in there and do that. So we're going to go ahead and start with Shadowsun herself, and I do think that Shadowsun is probably better with a more balanced deck, but this is a great opportunity to also try out some of the super heavies too. So we'll jump in. We'll see. I've had quite a few disconnects. We'll see how that goes, or AFKs, or just levers, I guess. Also, this is going to be on the slow play. It's not going to be the fast gameplay, so it's going to be quite slow, so I'll try to give a bunch of extra commentary. Hopefully I have a lot to talk about. Things with Shadowsun, just to outline her ability real quick. So at the end of each of your turns, not the start, after you've done your actions on your turn, each of your cards gets a buff to their attack stats. And then anytime an opponent deploys a card directly across from one of your cards, it gets a free shot on it. So it's a little bit of extra damage built up over time throughout the course of the game. So end of your turn, friendly cards gain plus 15% of their base ranged attack to their current attack value. And then if they did not change lanes, is the only way that does. Yes. And then they do a 25% of their current ranged attack shot against anything deployed directly across from them. Now, of course, the counter to that is that an opponent can always just feed their cards through. So they want to put a card in the center lane, they play it in the left lane, and then play something there to bump it over after. So it's easy enough to avoid that. Ooh. Speaking of avoid that. But yeah, so again, I do think Shadowsun is better with a balanced out deck, and I don't think she's the strongest of the Tau warlords. But she is fun and cool and offers some really interesting stuff. And as your attack power builds up, obviously that 25% free shot you get on cards as they deploy gets a little bit better. So that's cool. That's a nice kind of perk to it. We'll see how this goes. Very, very slow. And I like Shadowsun as a character. I enjoy the Supreme Commander. It's cool to get a little bit of extra Tau that's not Darkstrider. Oh, that is... it's just giving me all the free shots, huh? Okay. Now, here's the trick, is I don't want to move Shadowsun because I don't want to move this thing because I want it to stay in the middle so that it's getting, and he's going to bop back over and do the target acquired. But it won't matter as much because I will have the protection from that taunt, and that is a great big fat taunt. Now, I'm glad this isn't the Parasite. One thing I wanted to kind of commentate on while we're going through this is there is a big increase in a couple things, just sort of meta notes to talk about here. Going to take that hit. Just that anti-infantry being a new trait is really cool, and that's really powerful, especially because so many of the most powerful taunt cards are infantry cards. So anti-infantry is really good to counter the damage reduction of taunt. But another thing we're seeing a lot of is these new transport vehicles, new-ish, transport vehicles popping into the game that replace the infantry taunt with something much chunkier as like a vehicle or a tank. Which is awesome, but really weak against, say, for example, the Parasite of Mortrex. So I don't want to move lanes. And then again, we'll see the timing here. I had to really remind myself about that end of your turn because I was like, oh, why isn't the thing triggering? And it's like, it's the end of my turn. Just happened right there. 33. Wow. Okay. And so obviously that ability is percentage based, so is the free attack. So both are better the higher your card's base attack. So these are showing as they got the damage buff. It is interesting that there's a visual cue for that damage buff. I guess it makes sense, just to kind of understand what's there. And he keeps deploying directly across from them. One thing about Shadowsun is she's still quite new. Not a lot of players have her, let alone are running her. Yeah, so a lot of players don't know how to play against that. But pro tip, if you're playing against Shadowsun, don't deploy directly across from the hardest hitting card. And this is an interesting matchup. It's against the Swarm Lord, so that Swarm Lord debuff is debuffing my cards, but as it's doing that, my cards are also improving their attack stats. So the debuff is slowing down my progression, but the growing buff from Shadowsun also is helpful to counteract that. So over time, that debuff will actually not even reduce my attacks below what I started with. And then sometime in the middle of the game, my attacks will actually be higher despite the debuff. So it's an interesting matchup, and a bit of a bummer for the Swarm Lord there. But in the advantage of the Swarm Lord, the modifier in this campaign is at the end of every turn, start of every turn, each card gets a bonus to its melee stat. And I'm doing a heavy range deck, so that is unhelpful. And so again, what you do is deploy in one of the off lanes. Like, I have an empty lane. If you deploy a card over there and move the Scourge of Tyrannus over, you don't get the free shot from the Storm Surge, but then the Storm Surge shoots at that thing. So there's a little deployment shenanigan to do. And you don't want to deploy across from this thing because 25% of that is significant. I believe I mentioned this, but just to go ahead and make sure to say it, I'm fairly pleased that I have been losing games. My win rate with these Supreme Commanders hasn't actually been very good, which I appreciate. I don't want these to be like, you run a Supreme Commander, you win the game. That would be a huge bummer. So I'm quite pleased to have that win rate. I'll go ahead and do this. I'm going to go ahead and save that taunt drone for when Shadowsun herself is on the table to see how badly that goes. At the moment, it looks pretty promising. Oh, God. And then the Endless drop counts as a redeploy. Yikes. I keep forgetting that when the second copy of an Endless card pops on the board, that counts as deploying. So Shadowsun gets a free shot against anything that redeploys that way, which makes her really strong at clearing lanes of cheaper Endless cards, but not the chonky Endless cards, with this being the single, I believe, toughest Endless card in the game. I love that. Old One Eye, such a cool character. I really love seeing that card embodied in that way. I miss... Oh, what did he have before? He had Regen? Yeah, I miss Regen. But I do really love the Endless on there. It's a cool thing. It's a quirky thing. The reason I don't like it is that so much of the card and so many of the Tyranid mechanics rely on building up your attack over time, and you lose that if you get Endless instead of Regen, where Regen could kind of build on itself, but... Still, it's cool. It's thematic, and having that gives you just so much more value out of the cost of the card, which is 50 points, so it's significant. And this guy deployed every single time directly across from my heaviest hitting card, which did not need to happen. All right, we got the Swarm Lord itself up. My God, almost 400 damage. Oh, yikes. So I'm going to win this fairly comfortably, but I did want to go ahead and throw out there, props to Fleischwolf for playing this out. It's not over, because the cards I have left in my deck do kind of suck. And there is potential here for the Swarm Lord actually to carry this out. Because the Swarm Lord should be at a point where it can actually do enough melee damage. Ooh. Yeah, but there is that. Where it should be able to do enough melee damage to actually kill this. And then I don't have much. I have a Taunt Drone... I've got a 10-point melee Inspiring Presence guy, and then Shadowsun herself. But then I do have this thing. So I do think I have this. He should probably go Psychic. If he has enough of a punch to go ahead and take this guy out, which I don't think he does because of fear. Yeah, he should probably go Psychic. Trim this guy down and preserve his shields as long as possible to go ahead and nail... these two over here. But at the same time, if he does melee, he will take this out, and that pulls my cards out more quickly. Maybe surrendering here. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and surrender, because I don't want to win this way. One of the things I really love having these cards and being able to play them. I appreciate someone who honorable jousts, who plays the game. And I don't want to be a spoiler here, even while I'm trying this out. I want to give people the wins and make sure we're playing through. But yes, in that game, several things that could have really made a difference. You definitely wanted to not deploy directly across from the highest hit point or the highest offensive card on the board. You had other options to deploy cards and not get hit as hard. One extremely powerful utility piece is the barrage, getting the free shots, taking out shields is super, super strong, and I really like that. For Trajann, I've actually had a lot of trouble getting this to work. I have lost every single game with Supreme Commander Trajann, which is in part because I'm going like all custodians, which are not great in this. I'm not well, okay, so the thing that's been killing it is I go up against Akaran, and a max level Akaran actually handles max level custodians quite well, just because you've got all of those max level Space Marine cards that can just pound on everything, take a really long time to bring down, and then they have the extra life. So I've been kind of doing some weird stuff with Trajann to try to get it to work. So I've got a mix of Psychic and Barrage ranged, including the Super Heavy in here as well. One of the Super Heavies, the Barrage Super Heavy I've got in here. We'll see how you do, Jeeves. Cool artistic combination. I love the World Eater stuff plus the Drukhari card backs. It's a nice, like, they're clearly different, but at the same time they feed into each other and are really appropriate for the melee-centric campaign. So we'll see how this goes. I really should have moved my camera for this one because I can't fully see what... Oh, it's Grimnar, Logan. Grimnar, comma, Logan. And so right there, you see where the Space Marines are really excelling here and where Akaran himself would be particularly strong in a max-level melee campaign. Yeah. I'm also seeing quite a bit of Logan, though, which makes sense because he's a really powerful warlord in his own right. And also, oh, wow. I don't love it. I don't love it, but we're going to shoot him to heck. Shoot him to heck. And now here's the thing. He could move Astrath over here across from Minst, and I believe his Furious Charge would kill her before she actually... Yeah, there. Yep. We'll actually take her out before she even gets the Medicae off. Yep. Oof, man. Gotta watch out for that. But yeah, and Logan's a really popular pick in these because you get the free overflow damage, which is one of the better ways to deal with Akaran cards and shields. So it's a way to pump damage under shields and then also to kill extra life cards. It's the melee barrage, where you can actually hit off-lane targets with a single on-lane melee attack. Ba-ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba. And just to talk about it real quick, Trajann's ability is... Your cards start with 20% boost to their attack stats while they're above half health. And then when they get below half health, it switches to 20% damage reduction. So we just saw this Scythe of Mars switch from doing extra damage to now taking less damage. Ooh. And I think my Scythe of Mars, with the... Big Game Hunter, my Scythe of Mars is toast here, which is kind of good because then I can follow up with my absolute monstrosity of Barrage card and turn this around. Wow. Oh, haha. And so the Scythe of Mars, so it was going to die, but the damage reduction saved it. Which I'm not totally sure I wanted in this case, actually, but we'll go ahead and take him out. We'll take him out just cause. And now this should be a fairly comfortable wipe, because whatever hits the Scythe of Mars is going to do enough overflow damage to probably kill my Valkyrie, and this guy's toast anyway. Because the overflow damage to the adjacent target isn't just the total damage more than was enough to kill the card, it is 1.5 times the damage beyond the health of the card. Oh wow, that just died outright, okay. Did not expect that. Okay, so we're going to go to... we're going to go to... yeah, we'll do that. And now he's still got 5 cards in the bank on top of what's on the board. So I really need to make a difference here, and quick. So he's a good piece. And so you see I've got the area effect Psychic plus my Scary Barrage. 700 hit points, my god, and doing almost 200 damage. on top of the Psionic Blast Barrage, but still, he's got a lot of stuff in there, and then I still have to deal with Logan himself. Now, Trajann's a decent matchup against Logan, especially since I am running a ranged and psychic deck, so I will be banking that melee attack for the endgame, which I think is a really good way to competitively run Trajann. Ugh. Now that was good and bad. Good because that guy can certainly take the most hits. Bad, of course, because I don't want to lose it, and because... Ooh, he actually has enough to kill it. Holy cow. Well, that's not good. Bloop. I don't love that, but I also don't... And this guy is sitting here, he's taking so long to kill that he's banking that extra increased melee attack. One side note, I do really wish that there was a marker here showing how much they'd gained, like a status marker saying they have this much. Like, you look at... Oh geez, what is it? Marvel Snap, and it's got like the modifier where it's gotten this bonus this many times. Well, that's gonna hurt. I'm pretty sure he's just got me out right here. Does not. Look at that damage reduction saving my butt. Although it's not, because he still has 3 cards in the bank. And if the next thing he's got is Furious Charge or Precision Shot. Wait for it. Wait for it. Wait for it. Do Furious Charge. So this also, of course, highlights how well Space Marines are kind of dominating this kind of max level campaign. Even in Melee, which you don't expect to be like a Space Marine-centric attack type, but there is that. So that is exactly the kind of stuff I'm having to build to face. And so it is really cool and fun to run the Supreme Commanders. I'm really enjoying this, but it is also gratifying to see that the Supreme Commanders, again, are not an auto win. So I'm not just winning outright, which is great. Like, I want to see that. I want them to be fun and cool, but not just, run away with the game. Okay, what else can I do here? Because I kind of want to spread the hit points out a bit. Okay, we'll throw him in there. I'll drop this guy and put something with more tankiness in. What do you got? 21, 21, 20. Ooh, we'll drop another medic in there. There we go. Sweet. This is GHAZ Thraka, Supreme Commander, and every time you play a card, so an endless card redeploys, or you play a card on the board the first time, a random enemy card gets hit for a amount of flat damage under shields, or just on them, equal to 10%? 10% of the current wounds total of all friendly cards deployed. So 250, 10% will be 25. So unfortunately, I've got a faster deck, so I deployed first, so I lose out on that free damage. But that will stack. So when I play another card that's got 250 hit points, the 10% damage will be 50. Or I could play one that has 400% damage and health and just hit really hard. So you just took 70 damage when I just played a card on the board, which is great. Yeah, GHAZ is pretty terrifying. And especially good with things like Medicae, which increases your wounds total, with Taunt, which reduces damage you take, and then Shields, which keeps your cards alive longer, so that you end up with a lot of bulk, which then helps you really get a lot of advantage out of his ability. Now, I didn't actually see who took the damage there. I think it was this guy. Got pinged a bit, yeah. Wow, that is... Okay, cool. It is also nice when I'm playing this to see opponents who also have some of the super heavies in there, because then again, I feel less bad for running these. But, and that is kind of the great thing, is like, I don't feel guilty if I am losing. Which I'm losing quite a bit, so. And we got Space Marines again, and this one is... Oh, ouch. This one is running Tolmeron, so I really need to kill these things quick. And there's actually some incentive for me here to lose cards, because that lets me do more redeploys. The other half of GHAZ's ability is when a card is under 25% hit points, yes, its attack stats are increased by 25%, which is a lot better than it sounds. We can do some real damage here. That may just kill this out. Nope, okay. So he has a chance to save that. And this one's attack stats are actually not all that impressive. It's an 85-point card, has barrage, but the shields, and has a nice melee attack on it. So there's a lot of incentive for me to switch off and do melee. Ooh, that's not good. So he didn't save that. Interesting call. Okay. Which I guess it was worth it to get that target acquired, but I don't know that was the best move. Especially since I'm still sitting on 4 shields. But he is able to do damage directly through them with that thing, so there is that. But even if I lose this, I do still have the Stompa in here that also has a big giant chunk of hit points. This still will be very dangerous against it. Wow, that's a lot of damage. And so this guy has already showed he's got multiple super heavies, and he's running Tolmaron, which, good pick, because Tolmaron is the opposite of his Supreme Commander, where he is the cheapest by a mile of the Space Marine Warlords. Coming in at 20 points. He's 1/5 the cost of most of the Supreme Commanders, give or take. Wow. So you take him, and then you just completely fill the board with your scariest cards. Holy crap. So, Tolmaron, very strong at this level. And you see a lot of... Ooh, okay. You see a lot of the decks that people are building have this kind of concept, right? Where they are all teching to deal with high hit points, fear, and shields cards, and then kind of building in ways to deal with the extra lives from Akaran, right? So we saw a bunch of that stuff in that Logan deck before. There are cards that you have to punch through, and you have to do it fairly quickly, because otherwise they will rack up insane amounts of melee damage. And a lot of them have the... Mephiston, Lord of Death, in there, who racks up, and oh wow, that is an awful draw. Impressive amount of health. And now here again, I have incentive for my cards. Whoa. I've heard it said that the bonus ability... Oh yeah, nice. The bonus ability where you get that bonus to attacks that's never triggers or is a total waste, I disagree completely. When you get those bonus hits, like the one you just saw with that guy, the little 20-point Inspiring Presence dude hitting for, what was it, 200 damage? Yeah, it's real good. There is no this is bad kind of moment. And with this guy's hit points, when this guy dies and redeploys, I'll get a significant chunk of free damage on something over there. Which will happen right now. Nice. And that puts me in a really comfortable spot to actually deal with those, which is good, because otherwise I was in real trouble. We'll see what else he's got in there for defense, or if he just has another heavy shooty thing. But I do have to watch this, because if I get really lucky and take this out, then this guy could just pop right across from my Stompa and give me a real problem. But he does have to be careful with that, because this one's hit points are low enough that if he's not able to actually kill the Stompa, it will kill it back. And the GHAZ's bonus, where below 25% wounds, of course, is much better when something has a 500 wounds, because that means you get a much wider band where it still is active with a buff to attack stats, but is still not close to dead. Oh, that's a bummer. That outflank is also a bummer. But we're just going to wreck some faces there. And Big Game Hunter is incredibly powerful at this match scale, and he may be giving up here at this point. That would be a bummer. Hopefully he finishes out the game. In this one, I really did not feel like it was an unfair matchup. I think he had a really strong counter deck to beat me. I think that target acquired play was a mistake because it cost one of his highest power cards, or one of his highest offense cards. So this guy's probably trucking over to one. Yeah, okay. Inspiring Presence, the ready, plus that. He's got plenty to take this guy out, but then it's basically dead. So it should be very easy for me to close this out, because GHAZ himself at max level is a monster. And that's one of the things I enjoy most about GHAZ, is his abilities are okay. Free damage good, but it requires you building a deck that's just around bulk and not necessarily around attack stats. And then its offensive ability is somewhat, wow, limited. Dang, okay. But in return, you get a really good bruiser brawler of a warlord. And I really like warlords that can stand on their own, which he can more than stand on his own. So there you go. There was GHAZ. I really enjoy GHAZ. And GHAZ is the only Supreme Commander that I'm currently laddering with in the standard 200-point deck mode. And I've really been enjoying that. That's been a good time. And I did already have a guide up where you see the deck I'm running for that. It's a very weird deck that I would only ever run in a deck and Warlord combination where it really incentivizes having a ton of hit points over everything else. And so again, you get that combination of shields, Medicaid, Taunt, Endless, a little bit of Inspiring Presence. It's an interesting deck. And it's just a really fun Warlord where the randomness triggers, but then GHAZ himself, it's a little bit like playing a Baden, where you have that very high risk where you have to play the Warlord to get the most benefit out of it, but you don't really want to. But at the same time, it's not fun to play unless you do. So it's like, I will throw this on here and give you a chance to beat me, but for fun. Next up, we have G-Man himself, who's going to lean right into the brutal power of the Space Marines. My win rate with him has been decent because he's an exceptionally aggressive Warlord. And of course, is no slouch himself in combat and is a very powerful melee piece. So to talk about his abilities, he just gives a flat 25% buff to attack stats for all of your cards when they're in play, no matter what's going on. And then he also doubles your readies. So your end of turn readies are doubled. So it's as if you ready twice instead of readying once. So if you do ranged, you will then double ready your psychic and your melee for the following turn. So if you're alternating your attack types, he hits really hard. And then, of course, his flat buff to attack stats, just like Trajann's, stacks with Inspiring Presence on the board. So if you have the passive buff plus Inspiring Presence, it really racks up the offense of your abilities. Now, I'm actually a little bit sad about running... Sad is the wrong word. But running Guilliman in the 400 deck point mode is a little bit of a letdown because one of my favorite things about him in the ladder, where he's actually quite good if you have him at a decent level, is that he takes your kind of middling 20-point Space Marine cards and makes them actually scary. He gives them a little bit of a extra life that they wouldn't otherwise have, which I really love that. So you've got your, plucky 20-point chaplain. This guy's a great example, actually. Your 28-point chaplain is suddenly actually feels as heroic as they are kind of supposed to lore-wise. This is my first game against Votann in this campaign, and it's pretty cool. I love seeing Votann. And that is a bummer. So we got everything. Excuse me. And I've got my 2 area effect on here's my 2 Psionic Blast cards that should help clear those extra shields. But this guy does do a lot of damage, so I may lose Njal sooner than later. We'll see what he does. This is a pretty bad matchup for me. This is Etok is a awesome Warlord. I just, in general, really like him and really like Votann, but then that Null Vortex is super strong in this campaign, where you have a lot of incentive to... where you have a lot of cases where it's the abilities of these high-level cards that make them hard to deal with, right? So I mentioned Mephiston, Lord of Death, and the fact that he has both Fear and Deathblow makes him extremely challenging to deal with, but if you nail him with Null Vortex and are able to take him down before his Fear and Deathblow come back, that takes away a lot of his value. Similarly, Tor Garadon or any of the big game hunters with shields, you remove their shields and have an opportunity to take them out before... Oh, downside of Null Vortex, you just saw it, is that once the Null Vortex wears off, if they have on-deploy abilities such as Furious Charge, they then trigger after. All right, do we do melee? Or do we do psychic, or do we do ranged? Yeah, we kind of have to do melee. It is a bummer because I didn't want to use that buff, but that's okay. Now, downside, he then has the Null Vortex and can deploy it anywhere on the board. But that did give me a bit of an edge to take those out, although it did cost me Njal to do it. This guy, man, I love being able to take both. Having the 2 Psionic Blast Psychers in Space Marines. Okay, well, there you go, your shields. Again, though, you have to kill that card before the Null Vortex wears off, or the shields will come back, and it will have whatever extra health it had left over, so you have to kill it more times. Unless you can take it out first. Ooh, man, okay. I don't even have that one. Ooh. And Votann did get a couple new cards fairly recently that are really good in this modifier with the melee bonus. Don't do it. Doesn't have enough to kill me, does he? God, look at that range ready. Wow, okay. Between the outflanks and the readies and hitting melee and psychic, he's building up some pretty impressive attacks, which I'm concerned about. I still outnumber him considerably, but I don't know that the rest of the stuff in my deck... Well, there's some really good stuff in my deck. I believe I have Mephiston in there. And I definitely have... Ooh, yeah. I don't really know that I want to go melee. We'll go psychic. Whoa, yeah, look at that. And that's a really high attack stat, or a really high psychic attack for that card because of the bonus from Guilliman, and then also the double ready. So yeah, that really builds up your attack stats extremely quickly, and that's one thing I've really enjoyed about playing him. He's very bursty, but over the course of the game he bursts quite a bit, and he has that Space Marine flexibility of expanding all of your attack values. Oh, geez, that's harsh. As long as you use more than one. So you don't want to go all mono melee with him, but if you do ranged melee or psychic melee or ranged psychic, any combination you want, that's very, very powerful with Guilliman. Pop you over here, so none of that big game hunter chicanery. Another shield over here, and then Mephiston, Lord of Death. Again here, though, I want Null Vortex to drop on his turn. Oh, look at the readies. Look at the readies. And if your cards are readying and you get the double ready on top, you build that up real quick. And Etok himself, if it comes down to Guilliman versus Etok, unless he's got some stuff on the flanks to hit me, that should be a easy finish. Look at that. That's a 26-point card, and he's doing almost 100 in both melee and ranged without the ready bonus. He will do well over 100 of either with these readies involved. And again, of course, they stack, so the percentages feed off each other. So if you have Inspiring Presence going on, which I do, and then, of course, the modifier, 317, my God. How many shields you got? You got 3. How many shields you got? 3. Good, psychic again. I want to punch through those, but I don't want to do it too soon. But also I run the risk of him punching through my shields before I do go ahead and burst out. Ooh, man, you're hitting hard, buddy. And he still has quite a few cards on the board. Now, I think it would be tempting to... Yep, that. Okay, right there. So he's got enough ranged power to probably take this guy out, and then also take this guy out while he doesn't have Deathblow on. The downside, though, is my counterattack may be able to mop this up, because I will have Guilliman with these huge bonuses on there. Okay, so it wasn't enough to bring him out and bring him down. What do we have? 400. Wow. Wow. And now that is... Oof. Wait, Deathblow trick. Oh, because he did the null... Okay, and that's the other downside, too, is that Deathblow is still live. The upside to that, though, is that he will get Null Vortex on Guilliman, which will remove, should, I think, the global buff on these guys. This will actually be a fun test. I've never tested this. Because when you hit a Warlord with Null Vortex, it turns off their overall trait, which will turn off the double readies, but it may not turn off something that's already triggered, like the 25% buff that comes when they deploy. Now, my thinking of it is it should. So we should see the attack values drop on both of these guys, because it will shut off Guilliman's ability. And we did not. Okay, so they still, yeah, so it didn't turn that off, which is interesting. I comfortably have this just because of the chonk of the man himself and this absurd ranged ready. 242%. Okay. 242% of 100. Ooh, that was a big psychic attack, though. Well played. You know what? I'm going to give it to you, buddy. You did great. And hopefully that doesn't come across as condescending. That was well played. Love to see you talk. He may still be trying to get his wins. More power to you. Okay. I believe we have 2 more. We've got the Lion. And then we have the Silent King. The Silent King being my least favorite because he is a flavorless Necron. I really liked Necrons back in the day with their older lore, and I still like them. But the Silent King... What's the terrible term? Just kind of feels like a Deus Ex Necro Machina. I don't really know. It just feels like something sort of thrown in there to have a Supreme Commander type deal, and I don't... And just to 40k in general. I don't really care much about the Silent King as a character. Now I'm looking at this. I went with this originally to make it just as much green as possible. That guy's not very good here. These guys have not been particularly good. I want to do a little bit more of kind of the general Space Marine stuff. Ooh, yeah. And the Lion lets your cards attack first. So I'm looking for cards that can attack for... Ooh, I have Inspiring Presence in there already. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Oh, you know what? I use them all the time. I'd never use this guy. And then we still have 52. Yeah, we can throw both in there. Okay. Love being able to run some of these guys, because I only just got the copy of this one recently. I love the Lion. His ability is so cool, because the joint ability, the first is that your cards attack first, right? So when defending, if they have the attack type that they're about to take, they will hit back first. As long as they're over half health, I'll check the exact percent. And then when the Lion himself is on the table, the first time he would take damage each turn, a random one of your cards will do a melee attack against the attacker first. So there's the potential to actually kill things before they do damage throughout the game, which is really powerful in the basic ladder play because there's just less to remove. It's less powerful at the 400 deck point mode just because cards can take so much more of a beating that it's actually somewhat more challenging to actually trigger that. And we're up against Zandrak. Interesting. Yeah, so above half health, they attack first. First time this warlord would be attacked, a random friendly card, including him, I believe. Random friendly card. I believe the Lion himself can do a melee attack against it before it hits him, even if it's off lane. And that makes him one of the, I believe, the only Space Marine, well, no, technically Artemis, but one of only 2 Space Marine warlords who can hit cards off lane like that. I've got way too much Inspiring Presence in this deck. And I did kind of accidentally choose a bunch of high initiative cards, so I should hit first most of the time, which is really good. I don't like that. Who do we target acquire? Ooh, that one. I immediately regret that. So he's going to outflank me. One of the best things about being outflanked by an opponent is if you're able to outflank back, because that actually gives you a maximum value of your outflank. Whereas if you do it first, max level outflank is not as good because there's not enough to steal. Like, see right there, I actually got the bonus. That's not that much different. 403, wow, okay. Yar, and I didn't, no, I attacked first. So when he shoots me, you should see all my cards shoot first and then promptly get below half health. Well, this guy at least. This guy may make it. Oh wow, max level, that thing is quite scary. And that's one thing about the 400 deck point mode is that a lot of the cards you see in standard ladder play are considered cheap, which still is a little bit mind-blowing just with the amount of stats that they have. He's definitely not going to want to do melee because these guys are going to be on the board for a while. There we go, that first attack. Now I almost had enough to take this guy out before it attacked, which would have been the big perk of the Lion. But of course you see that it has no benefit once they're below half health, so it just shuts off the abilities, which is somewhat weaker than the newer ones. We're seeing the newer ones give you kind of a consolation prize as your cards get weaker, which I really like because the Supreme Commanders encourage you to bring fewer chunkier cards, and having some kind of ability when they're at max health and then a different additional ability as they're kind of trailing is really cool. And it also is very much in line with the Warhammer tabletop rules of like monsters and such, where their stats actually change, although they just get worse. But yeah, where I like that their stats kind of change as they take damage. But yeah. So pretty much no matter what attack type, that guy's going to die. So we'll take off the Inspired Presence before we get hit. Unless if he deployed that guy over here, he would have had the chance for this one to survive. Whereas now if he does ranged or melee, this guy will die first. So a slight strategic note on that one. Splat. You're doing great, buddy. 360. This guy is still so good. He got debuffed recently to a point where he's kind of more reasonable, but he's still just insanely powerful. You have to have a way to deal with Asterath. He's common enough that he will certainly come up. And it was a good call putting the shields across from Asterath, but it was not a great call taking his big game hunter away. So that big game hunter really should be across from Asterath to deal with him, but I guess the fear kind of knocks that down, so I don't know. If he has another target acquired in there, that could change things around. God, shields. Shields are really, really strong at max level. Except that so many cards in the game have such powerful hits that they can counteract shields. Or just punch straight through shields. This guy's probably got, no, 108. Okay, that's not actually anywhere near as impressive as I thought. Not enough yet. And you can see right here where the Lion is much more defensive than Guilliman. The two are fairly comparable in terms of cost, in terms of what other bodyguards go with them. But the Lion also encourages flexibility, but in a passive way. Whereas Guilliman, you're encouraged to be proactive and just nailing stuff with your bonuses that you're building up. With the Lion, you're encouraged to have stuff on the board that has multiple attack types so that you can go ahead and trigger the attack first stuff. Oof, man, taking a beating over here. Wow, okay. Well, you get fear on there, it's not so much. Yeah, so I really like the Lion. I think he's cooler than Guilliman, and I just really enjoyed the design of him, and I like the concept, especially in those close games, especially in the normal ladder mode where you have smaller decks. That defensive ability on the Lion himself is awesome. And then his ability is a little bit weaker because he also has shields. So he's got Primarch stats, but he attacks first and has shields. So he's a really strong endgame piece where some of the others can be burned down more easily. Man, if he does melee, he's probably going to do ranged. Oof, oof, you're getting low there. He's going to be saved by Nemesis Zandrek by Oberon. And Vargard Oberon is bonkers at max level. He's got shields and taunt, which makes him super strong. And there's a thing I actually mentioned. This is a bug that I've reported. But when I hit... No, we want to hit him. When I hit the Vargard, he's not going to lose a shield the first time. Because the attack that goes into him is one that actually was targeted towards... the Nemesis. So because the attack was technically targeting the Nemesis, it does no damage and does no shields. Although it did do some damage here on him. No, I hit him twice. Yeah, so he's only missing one shield despite taking 2 hits because there's a weird negation thing where the first attack you do does not remove shields or do damage because he's not the target of the attack, right? So you target Nemesis. Nemesis is removed from the table, so the attack happens, but it kind of misses. Where both attacks should attack the Vargard, so since I had 2 attacks left on the board, that should have removed all of the shields from the Vargard. And there you saw 2 of my cards actually attack first and take out the Vargard before he even got to attack, which was awesome. I actually was not expecting that. I forgot that they would do that, and the attack first is particularly strong against taunt, because if all of your cards can attack back first, they will attack first the card that is taunting, of course, or target acquired. Target acquired and taunt are both really strong. The Lion is good with both target acquired and taunt on your opponent on the board, which is cool. Wow, that is not actually very impressive stats there, buddy. Really? Okay. I mean, that's pretty impressive. I shouldn't complain about that because he's still hitting like an absolute truck. But after playing Guilliman, where you see his attack stats, the Lion feels a little bit wet noodly. And he's not, of course. The extra, and there we saw the free attack, but wow, that, ouch. This is considerably close. Oh, wow, no, it's not. No, we're doing. Look, he's a wet noodle. I should have surrendered. That was not the thing. I should have surrendered there. Oh, well. Because he deserved that win. That was well played. And playing with the Nemesis was gutsy. All right, I believe we have 2 more. Maybe just 1, actually. We may be that close, but I think there are 2 more. Nope, just 1. So just the Silent King, and then we'll be done. So if you're still with me, props. Appreciate it. And for this one, just to have fun, I went ahead and just ran all of the fairly standard Necron cards, where I just have all of the Satan, plus my big, chunky, Inspiring Presence, and Runkir, just because I like him. Target acquired 2 Medicae. And of course, the Silent King is so good, this was very effective, but I still expect to lose this because it doesn't have enough of the utility pieces. I only have 1 target acquired. I don't have Barrage. Oh, I do have Barrage in the Sun Eater. Okay, it's actually pretty good. And I do have Furious Charge mixed in there twice. I've got some melee readies, really strong melee pieces with a bunch of durability. Against... Onva is really good at this deck point mode because you just have so many hit points none of this deck point mode at this level of deck points because you have so many hit points. Super strong. Super, super strong. But yeah, this is our last one. Then we'll go ahead and call it. And it's very unlikely this video is going to go live today, so this will be for a campaign that was just at the end of the season. Maybe I'll post it before next week, but yeah, we'll see. It's crazy. The Custodes season has gone by really, really quickly, so we only have just a couple more days left of the Custodes season, and then we're going to jump straight into something else. And I don't think we know what that season is. Oh god, if this goes to... Thank you. God, I thought it was going to go straight to a... AFK. I'm really happy we've done this video and haven't had a single AFK. We've actually had everyone play all the way through. That's been nice. So when I first jumped in this campaign, I had, I think, 3 different games where they went AFK, and that was when I wasn't playing super heavy, so they had no reason to like just time out. They just did it. So I could see someone getting a little bit upset when they immediately see a Supreme Commander on the board, even though I hope this video has kind of shown that they certainly can be beaten, that they're not totally invincible. They're strong, of course, as they should be, but I did play against some somewhat weaker decks and some stuff where players were doing some things that wasn't necessarily the right call. Yeah, we'll do that. And to talk about the Silent King, so he himself just has banana stats and has a really, really more powerful version of Nemesis Andrek's ability, where the first time he's attacked, he is replaced by a very high health taunt card that also has a ton of range damage. But then also, at the end of your turn, all of your cards ready, and then so at the end of your turn, all your cards ready. So you attack, and then you still get the max ready value of all of your cards, which is extremely good if you have... The way I prefer to build that is you have a single attack type, a single ready type, so all of your cards are constantly building up like a ranged buff, for example. And now I didn't do that with this, it's all debuffs, but that's still good. So double range debuff, so at the end of my turn, I have a built-in Swarmlord. So whenever at the end of my turn, I'll just debuff the heck out of his thing. It doesn't even matter what I do. Okay, and this is en va, so I'm glad that I've been killing these cards, because as I start hitting these cards and not killing them, I will be contributing to their significant attack stats, especially this thing, yikes. Ooh, that's not good. He will comfortably take out my Void Dragon. Luckily, he's got a bunch of cards in there with no melee attack whatsoever, which really does help. But I am probably going to lose this one, which I, again, am happy about because I want to lose some of the games with the Supreme Commanders, but I don't want to lose that badly. Ooh, yeah, that's a good option. Clear some shields. Oh, yeah. Oh, God, so many hit points. Look at those readies. And there I've got the flat melee buff. That's nice. The melee ready built in is a good one. But still, again, at 400 deck points, he could have those 3 and still at least one more really, really scary card in there. So I am in trouble here. Wow. But hopefully I can remove both of these fairly quickly and then see what else is in there. Whoa. Who hits harder? 112 and 104. And I have the ready that should be not quite enough. Okay. Oof, man, he's building up quite the melee attack here. And now I'm actually going to start hitting him because his shields are down. So he's going to hit even harder. So the Silent King is going to have to do a lot of work himself here. Enva is really good at max level. Except that Enva himself is totally useless. So you don't want to deploy the card itself, but you end up having cards that are extremely powerful over the course of the game. Oh, wow. I did not want to do that. That thing now is almost 100 melee. Okay. Or almost 100 ranged. Now, it's kind of good that he's chewing through my cards because that does mean that I'm not building up his attack stats too much. but at the same time it's bad because I'm losing cards. I think I played against Laser Wolf. I think Laser Wolf is one of the more prominent community members and plays a lot. It's a very familiar name. I should look out for that, because I do imagine I'm seeing a lot of the same players. Oh, we don't like that. Surprise! Target acquired. Now then he could just drop Onva, and then it would completely negate the target acquired, but he probably doesn't want to do that yet, even though that would be a cheeky, fun play. Okay, yeah, those are a very bad combination of things to still be in the deck. That may be a board wipe. If this does more than 200 damage, it does not. It doesn't have the ready. Okay, so it's not a board wipe quite, but it is hard hitting. And now here... I do not want to punch that, but I'm going to. Okay. I don't want to punch the... Yeah, look at all that hit point. Oh, beautiful chonk. So I didn't want to hit that guy with melee because I didn't want to give him that much of a buff. That may be enough to keep the Deceiver alive, which could then let me finish this out. If my ranged attack is high enough, plus my readies, to take this guy out, I have a chance. I think Laser Wolf has got me, but this is a tight ending to this game. I really like it. This is a great one to finish on. Then I do have to deploy him again, so we get the Inspiring Presence on top of what I had already, which is great. And the mine here does a lot of range damage by itself too, for better or for worse. Now he doesn't want to go ranged, but he doesn't want to go melee either. Probably going to go ranged. I probably would. Or I would ready. Okay, readied. Which is bad for me, because I really need the Deceiver to take out this guy. And I don't have enough to do it. Okay. We got to do it. We got to ready. Now, the good news here is that he is not going to have a single attack that can punch through the Silent King until he clears one of those flanky body cards, and then he should comfortably have something that can do it. But there's always a risk that I will be able to one-shot Onva through that shield if he does ranged. So I'm sitting on 153 plus this giant bonus. Yeah, it may be possible for me to just straight punch right through those shields. It was not yet. Probably won't be yet. But I have at least one turn while he tries to build up to punch through this thing. Once this guy gets a flank shot, I'm pretty much toast. So after this turn, I'm going to have to do a full ranged attack and hope. We'll see what he does. He may go melee. With that melee... Oh, yep, okay. Oh, he did it with Onva himself. Ah! That was great. Okay, that he... All right, that is absolutely the note to end on. Oh, man, okay. Oh, well played. Oh, that was great. I loved it. Okay, so that was it. That was all of the Supreme Commanders except Cawl, because he is banned. He knows what he did. He knows what he did. Yeah, so I had a lot of fun playing these a bit. And again, it was really super fun to get to play them at their full power, to see them on the board with other decks that are full power, and again, to see that they are fun, they're powerful, they're good, but they're not automatically game winning, which is really important. So let's take a real quick look. We may do one bonus game. I hate to not end on that, but I mean, we only have this kind of campaign for a limited time. So let's see what we have. Look at cost over 80. See what other cards we have in the collection, what we want to play. And this won't be Warlords. Well, that didn't work. Did I do cost under 80? Okay, I guess I did. Let's look at some of the top power cards that I actually own. So show me the ones I don't own first. Man, I'm missing a lot of cards. I gotta catch up. Okay, this is the stuff that I do have, and this is stuff that would be max level. I did run this guy, and it was really bad. because it doesn't have any way to punch through stuff. I did this in my Trajann deck, and it was super fun, but it went up against an Acheran, so he's like, I'll do 400 damage to your 100 hit point card. Oh, it's still there. All right, cool. So he was just tar pitted enough that he's died. It was still pretty cool, but nah. And we saw this one in that... man, what is... Man, wow, okay. Ooh, I'd love to see these. I haven't done any Eldar. I'd also like to see... Oh, man. Berserk and Barrage? Oof, you monster. But what would I run you with? This one I would love to see. Just to be that nasty. This one, of course, is an incredible card. Oh, looking at it. We're looking at these. The super heavies up above this. I think I'm going to go ahead and run a weird Eldar deck real quick. We're looking for melee. Oh, man. Yeah, okay. So looking for melee. Let's see. Now looking at Tyranids. Let's do... I'm doing ranged Tyranids. Let's go ahead and just double down on this and go completely ham. Zemet, what do you got? We're going to do Zemet, and then we're going to do the most absolutely terrifying things that we can run. So we got this guy, this guy. We're quickly going to run out of space here. One of these two, that one. We do have some chaff cards to throw in comfortably, so ooh, yeah, I'll throw you in there. And then we have 38. So this is where we throw in some of our other stuff. We got Poison. Got Big Game Hunter with Zemet is really good. Where's my target acquired? I'll throw in my target acquireds. I believe there are 2 of those. Ooh, we got a lot more. Yeah, Malachus. And then this. I am so happy that this thing exists. So happy. All right, and then we need a 22-point card. I believe that puts us comfortably in our little Bopper Boy Barrage range. It'd be really handy to clear out some injured cards. 22. Look at you. Perfect. Let's do it. Not even a max deck. But that max level, those max level super heavies are going to be completely insane. This may be a feels bad deck where the Supreme Commanders have not been. But with so much crazy powerful melee on the tip, wow, he's going first too. Yikes. Although him deploying first is kind of good because that lets me really position my stuff and hopefully be surprising. Oh, man, I'm excited to do this, but I'm also very sad to not end on that last one because that was so good. It was so good. All right. Onva getting the finishing blow on the Silent King. I don't know why I like that so much, but I really did. It's just Onva himself getting an actual killing blow on a Supreme Commander by itself feels amazing. Also, taking down the Silent King in melee as Tau feels amazing. That it was such a tight game and I was probably one shot away from winning. Like, all the things. It was clutch, it was weird, it was unusual. And he's going first. The Hive Herald, the Haradan. It's appropriate that his name is Blasto. We'll see how this goes. Probably has a bunch of fear in there. These two are pretty standard. He's running a combination of melee and psychic. Which is extremely good with, what's his face? Helbrecht. Because, so he doesn't have any Furious Charge. I want to kill that. As quickly as possible. Really strong combo because you have the Psionic Blast to clear shields, to clear injured cards, and then remove and soften stuff up for your melee attacks. You build up your melee attack there. But also not great because it can kill cards and remove the opportunity to build up your melee attack. But you'll still get enough melee bumps with these guys, with the attack value on these guys, that it shouldn't be too big of a problem. And party time. And this is where if I were on the Helbrecht side, I would be going, oh, F. Because that's a really very frightening thing to see. Barrage plus Poison. Especially against Fear and Shields, that really should comfortably make the difference here. And with the buffing of the melee attacks, where these guys all have very respectable melee attacks as well. That's one of the things that makes the Tyranids stand out, both as extremely powerful, but also means that their cards are overcosted for what they bring because they both attack stats are high, so they have to pay a premium for that. That doesn't really seem to apply to the super heavies because these are on par. Well, I don't know. That's still an extremely high price point. Yeah, they're both very expensive for the combination of traits that they have. Interesting call. Okay, going after that one. Now, I think he's trying to build up his melee buff so that he can threaten this and doesn't think he can do the 500 early. And oh, okay. Because that may be able to take him out on the Furious Charge. Wow, very nice. That was well played. That was really well played. So he got the melee buff across the board and also cleared an open lane to attack this guy from an angle. Still won't be enough to kill it, but it still is. That was very smart play. Oh, and that hurts. How do we do this? And he got him. He got my scary. And this is where it's tricky, where I want to feed him the squishy stuff so that he... And I lost most of my heavy hitters here already, so that's problematic. Now, I'm taking out some of his heavy hitters, but the thing about Space Marines that makes them really dominant in this is that most of their most powerful cards are in the, like, 50-point range instead of the 100-plus point range. So anybody who's loading up on 100-plus point cards has to sacrifice that elsewhere, whereas Space Marines can just be like, I'm just going to take more 50-point cards. And of course, every faction has decent stuff in that 50-point range and could do the same, but it's hard to think of that in the moment while you are squad building. Boy, do I not want to put that in there, or put that over there. It says 146, yikes. Do that. So I need him to die. He's adding the passive buff to the entire board right now. Look at that. That 100 melee on this thing is extremely strong. That's one of the things that's easy to forget about the Tyranid Titans. Even I just mentioned how they have the high attack stats and surprisingly high attack stats in surprising attack types, and then immediately forgot about it. He's gonna have 2 in the deck after this, so I will very much need to get some... What is my last card? It's the 22-point barrage. That's not going to be great. I really need a good shot on Helbrecht himself, which I'm not going to get. Oh, and this is not the one with Psychic. Oh yeah, I mean, that makes sense to take in a Zmut deck. I think he's got me pretty comfortably here. And it's that really smart play right in the middle that clinched it, where he was able to do that off-lane attack to basically kill the Harridan in one hit. Very impressive play. That was... Yeah. And that's another reason where I don't feel... I'm feeling more and more comfortable with running the Super Heavies and Bio Titans, because they are counterable. Because they are quite well balanced in terms of cost versus power. So you do have to be really careful with them, and there are things in play that will take them out. Yeah, because this stuff is about to die. I don't think I had a better play. Man, so I need to kill 2 of those and still have meaningful offense on the table for when Helbrecht comes in. I'm not going to get it, but it's going to be closer than I thought, I think. Maybe, unless he just wipes me right here, which he's probably about to. Yeah. With the modifier, with his ready value, and with that adding the extra bump, he should comfortably wipe my board. Oh, Zmut. And I mean, I went with a bit of a wonky, weird deck where I really put a bunch of points into those Super Heavy Titans, where I probably should have only included 1. If that, and then just filled with the kind of medium cards that are pretty good. But I don't think Zmut does particularly well at this game mode, because she's very bursty, but not bursty enough to take this stuff down. But then that burst goes away, and she's suddenly left with that the range bonus is single shot. Of course, it kind of has to be balanced most of the time, but then in the just. Womp womp. I really like Zmut as a competitive ladder warlord, but there are definitely drawbacks. And I don't think she's one of the better Tyranid warlords. Okay, so we were looking at some chaos stuff too. Last one. This will really be the last one I run because I'm going to run Skulltaker, who's one of my favorite warlords. Oh no, I want to run the Eldar thing. Oh, okay. Oh, do we do it? We're going to do it. Now, of course, if I'm running super powerful Eldar, what I want to run is Lilith, but she's banned in PvP because she's terrifying. So we're going to run Swordy Sword over here. That is Swordy Sword. Oh god, so much sword. So much sword. Then we'll go a little bit more on the durability. But wait, no, we'll go here. Yeah. Yeah. We're going to quickly go into the slightly cheaper stuff because we do have expensive cards on the board. Oh man, yeah, this is going to be great. It's my favorite stuff in here. 52. Sweet, still works out. We can do you. I think that poison is a really effective tool in this. Wow, that's a really high base attack step, but we'll go ahead and do this. He's got the, well, nah, I should have done the other guy, but this is a little bit more in theme with the Avatar, because I don't think I have any Drew. Oh, I do. I do have the Medicae already. And this really will be the last game. I would love to run Skulltaker with the Brass Scorpion, but we'll have to do that another day, because this is already getting quite long, and so we'll go ahead and leave it at that. Yeah, we want him on the board as long as possible, and we're up against, oh look, Akaran. That will be problematic, because I don't have anything in here that really effectively deals with the extra lives. I do have a lot of durability, some very hard-hitting cards that should help, but I expect to lose this comfortably. And I will say, that is a bit of a challenge, where every single thing I'm building, my first thought has to be a shield-heavy Akaran, shield and fear-heavy Akaran, which also happens to have Death Blow and a lot of really high melee, which is really challenging to deal with most warlords. And that is one of the things that now, Cawl being in PvP was definitely problematic, but I will say one thing I really enjoyed about Cawl being in PvP is he basically shut down Shield Akaran. So I saw a much more varied meta when he was on the board. Now he will be deploying last. He does not get any benefit to killing cards because this isn't Helbrecht and it isn't Grimnar. Yeah, what you gonna do, buddy? I'm gonna have to play this really cagey. This is probably gonna be a long game. I apologize in advance. And it was probably a mistake to go ahead and run it. I should have just called it before this, but we'll see. We'll see what we get here. I will say there's basically no Medicae and very little taunt in those decks, so once the cards take damage, they really do take damage, and that I do appreciate, because that's something that definitely makes them a little bit more manageable. I do think that as much as I like the Avatar, he's not a really strong pick for this campaign or this mode, because the flat 15 bonus to attack stats is not great. He's probably just going to kill him. Okay, yeah, with the ready value, he probably has enough to just wipe my board here. And then he still has to be concerned with what else I have, but not so much. All right, buddy, ghosty, ghosty. Nice, I have enough to actually take that out. Oh yeah, all right, let's do it. God, that's annoying. To hit something for like 300 damage and have it be like, I'm still here. It makes it such a strong starter warlord, but such a freaking obnoxious piece to play against. Nice. And with the combination of the Avatar plus the +5 every turn, that will be noticeable if I can keep cards alive on the board, which is the trick. Tor still sitting on a shield, yikes. Now the Avatar itself at max level is really strong, but it's not going to matter against cards that just don't die. We'll see how this goes. And even with everything out there, it's very difficult to think of any ability that is stronger than Acheron's at this level. Just to have this many cards with this high value who just don't die gives you such an edge. Such an edge. And there's the added bonus, the added downside that it does also make games very long, which I don't love. I really got to clear some of these shields and get this guy softened up. Oh, man. Oh, man. And he's still got 5 cards in the deck. Yikes. It takes so much to take even these 3 down, especially with Acheron on there. That's like, it's very challenging to do. You need ways to deal with those. Yeah. One of my favorite things in the world is having Etok nail Acheron himself with the Null Vortex, because that removes his shields, removes his second life, and removes his second life from everyone. So you do end up doing just a complete shutdown on him in a way that just doesn't shut any other Warlord down quite the same way. Oh god, that's so much melee. Whenever he does do melee, he's just going to kill all my stuff across the board. We'll say this guy's fear is really keeping him on the board in ways that I wouldn't have expected. It would be fun someday to see a max level, wow, to see a max level campaign where a max level campaign at 200 deck points. I would be very curious to see that, and if I'm not mistaken, we've never seen that. Oh, yuck. So much fear. The fear, no, it won't save. Well, it will save me until he gets his ready value built up. Like, Tor will not do a melee against this thing, because he will die promptly. Astorath actually won't. The Craft Warlord, the Avatar's stats are pretty unimpressive with fear on him. And he does have fear on him. I gotta remember that. I keep being like, he doesn't hit very hard, but he's got fear. Oh, big game hunter, of course. Yeah, I totally forgot about that. Blink. Take that, Astorath. But yeah, it's a thing. So this actually is not going to be that long of a game. It'll end quite quickly. But, oh well. Good times. We still had some really, really good games. Yeah, and this isn't a deck I expected to be particularly good. I did really want to see some of the super heavies shine, so it was a little bit unfortunate that they just were shut down like that, but yeah, it happens. 1 hit point. Oh my god, you poor Avatar. If he readies, I'm going to Honorable Joust. I'm going to do melee. Nah, he's just going to go for it. Okay, which makes sense. Ooh, brutal. There it is. Hope you enjoyed that. I hope you're enjoying the PvP campaign, or did enjoy the PvP campaign, because it'll be long over when this video comes out. But yeah, and cheers to the new season.